You can be married for 30 years, and it takes just 30 seconds for everything you believe to be true to shatter. That's how one woman described the moment she discovered the message. A single heart-stopping line on her husband's phone. "I miss your hands on me." It was sent to someone she'd never heard of. And in that instant the world tilted. Her reality collapsed not just because he had been unfaithful, but because she realized she had been living in a different story than the one he was telling. Infidelity doesn't just break hearts. It breaks narratives. And when those stories unravel, the grief is primal. The betrayal isn't only about a physical act. It's the loss of identity, the rupture of trust, and the painful recognition that love does not always come with loyalty. But here's the shocking part, and it's something Esther Perel has repeated in room after room of broken couples. An affair can destroy a relationship, or it can resurrect it. Most people believe that once trust is gone, the only option is to walk away. But Esther challenges that notion. She says, the fact that someone betrayed you doesn't mean the relationship was worthless. It means the relationship was real, and now it's wounded. And wounds, as we all know, can heal. But only if we understand the pain, rather than run from it. Perel has spent decades sitting with couples in the aftermath of infidelity. Her insights are brutal but liberating. She refuses to reduce betrayal to villain and victim. Instead, she asks the question few dare to voice. What was the betrayal trying to express? In her therapy room, Perel doesn't begin by asking, "Why did you cheat?" She begins with, "What did it mean to you?" Because until we understand the emotional function of the affair, whether it was a cry for attention, an escape from loneliness, or an attempt to feel alive again, we cannot begin to address the deeper fractures that preceded the act. Betrayal is not always the end. Sometimes it's the alarm bell we ignored. Perel points out that in many cases, affairs are not about sex. They're about longing, for freedom, for lost youth, for the version of ourselves we once knew before we became only a parent, a spouse, a provider. Cheating often comes not from dissatisfaction with a partner, but from disconnection with the self. And while that doesn't justify betrayal, it does explain its emotional undercurrent. Healing, then, is not about punishing the offender or demanding endless apologies. Healing begins when both partners stop defending and start revealing. When they ask, "What was missing in us?" Not just, "What did you do?" Esther teaches that the partner who was betrayed carries grief, but also power. You must decide not just if you want to stay but why. Not from fear or shame or convenience, but from choice. Can I rebuild with someone who broke me? Is not a weak question. It is the bravest question a person can ask. And yes, rebuilding is possible, but it requires both partners to undergo transformation. The one who cheated must carry the weight of responsibility without defensiveness. They must answer hard questions again and again, not to be punished, but to help the other reconstruct a shattered reality. They must show up with patience, consistency, and above all, truth. The betrayed partner, meanwhile, must mourn the loss of what they thought was true. That loss is real. It deserves to be felt. You don't move on from betrayal. You integrate it. You learn to carry it, not as a wound that bleeds, but as a scar that reminds. Perel often tells couples, there is the relationship you had, and then there is the one you will now build. The old one is gone. This is a new one. Do you want to co-create it together? It's one of the hardest invitations in love, to stay not because you're the same, but because you're willing to become something new. And what does this new relationship look like? According to Esther Perel, it starts with one simple but radical concept. Honest conversation, not about what happened but about what it meant. You must talk about the grief, the rage, the shame, and the shattered trust, not once but many times. Because healing is not linear. There will be days you feel strong and days you feel like screaming. There will be moments when you believe in second chances, and moments when you don't even believe in love anymore. This is normal. And Perel insists, healing cannot be rushed. It's not about forgive and forget. It's about remember and rebuild. You must name the pain, explore its roots, and sit in its discomfort together. And here's something many don't expect. Esther says that recovery is not only for the person who was betrayed. The one who cheated must do deep self-examination too. They must ask, why did I cross that line? What was I seeking? Only then can they offer more than guilt, they can offer growth. If both partners are willing, something astonishing can happen. They can begin to write a new story, one where the betrayal is not the end, but the turning point. Perel calls this the second marriage with the same person. It's a relationship reborn, not out of naivety, but out of hard-earned clarity. But let's be clear. Not every relationship survives. And not every relationship should. Sometimes betrayal exposes a deeper incompatibility, a foundation already cracked long before the affair. In those cases, leaving can be the healthiest, most self-loving choice. What Esther Perel wants you to know is this. Whether you stay or go, you must do the work to understand the betrayal. Because if you don't, you carry it into your next love, quietly, invisibly, destructively. Betrayal that is unprocessed becomes baggage. Betrayal that is understood becomes wisdom. Esther has sat with countless couples who believed they could never recover. She has heard the sobs, the accusations, the silence. And yet she has also seen transformation. One woman described how, after her husband's affair, she found her voice for the first time in years. She said, "For the first time I stopped trying to be perfect. I let myself feel rage. I let myself grieve. And eventually I let myself feel desire again. For life, not just for him." That is what healing looks like. It is not returning to what you were. It's becoming more of who you are. Esther Perel reminds us that love is not only about closeness. It's also about space. It's about seeing the other not as your possession, but as a separate, complex person. And ironically, it is this realization, born from betrayal, that can lead to deeper intimacy than before. She says, "In long-term love, we must learn to love the person we already have, not the one we imagine them to be." So, what should you do if you've been betrayed? Perel's advice is both bold and gentle. Don't make rushed decisions. You're not obligated to leave, but you're also not obligated to stay. Find a safe space to talk, therapy, a circle of support, even a journal. Silence is where pain festers. Ask hard questions, not just about the act, but about the why beneath the why. And most importantly, choose yourself. Whether you rebuild the relationship or walk away, make sure it is a decision that honors your worth. Betrayal changes you, but it doesn't have to define you. You can become bitter, or you can become deeper. You can close yourself off, or you can open yourself to new layers of truth, vulnerability, and strength. Esther Perel does not promise that healing will be easy. But she promises this. If you do the work, your next chapter can be more honest, more alive, and more powerful than you ever imagined. Because when trust is broken, something else is born. The chance to love again, this time with open eyes.